So this is your Symplicity training. Symplicity is the database we use for most of the reports that you'll submit. So when you get Symplicity access, we will send you a link with your login information from the ResEd staff account. And it's a good idea to bookmark the link for Symplicity because if you try to log into the system from anywhere but this specific link, you will get an error message. So using that correct link is really important. You can access the site on your computer or on your phone, and you'll log in using your TCNJ ID and password. So this is what you will see when you log in. On the left, you won't be able to really get much information. What you want to pay most attention to are the green and red buttons for creating incident reports and care referrals. So first, we will look at creating an incident report. The first thing you'll need to put in is your TCNJ email address. For incident type, you want to select O1. For this question, was the fire alarm activated as a result of this incident? You only want to select yes if the alarm went off as a result of something that happened. So for example, if somebody's baking brownies in the kitchen and the smoke alarm goes off, you want to select yes. You shouldn't select yes if the IR is just from doing a fire drill inspection because the fire alarm wasn't activated as a result of what happened. For time and date of the incident, you want to be as specific as possible. So if you know it's a specific time and date, obviously you can put that in. If the incidents happened over a few days, you can put in the time that you were notified if that's appropriate. For location, it's really important that you select the actual building you're in, not just residential building. So if you just select residential building, your residence director will not receive the report. You actually need to go in and select the specific building you're in. And then if the incident takes place in a room, you can select that room. If the incident did not take place in a specific room, you can put something else. So for example, if the incident takes place in the second floor library side bathroom of Centennial, you could type that in additional location information here. You can also use this if the incident took place in a specific side of the room. So for example, if you're doing closing checks and you notice that there's a violation on the window side of the room, you could include that here. So for students involved / respondents, these are students who have potentially violated the student conduct code. Your name should not be in here because you are not being documented at the time of the incident. Any TCNJ student, including students who don't live in your building, should be listed here if you are documenting them. And you can search for them by either last name or by their ID number. So it's a good idea to collect both when you're documenting so that you can search for them. For student groups involved, if you do happen to know the name of a specific group who might be involved in an incident, you can search for them here, but we can always add that in later if we need to, if you're not sure. For other individuals involved, these are non-students, so these could be guests who are present at the time of documentation. We still want to have their information and their names, and we want to know who has hosted them, so you can list all of that here. Then you'll have this space for student reporter / victim. It's a good idea to remember that generally your name as a staff member won't go here. This is for students who have reported to you that someone has violated the code in a way that impacts them. So for example, if a student comes to you and says that their roommate took $100 from their desk, they would be the student reporter. You as the staff member would not be the student reporter. For student witnesses, this should include any students who were present but not involved in the policy violation. So this is where student staff names should go, including desk assistants. You can also include any residents who report concern for someone. So for example, if a resident comes to you and says that their roommate just got back from a party and is vomiting in their room, they should be listed as a witness. And similarly, any other witnesses or victims who may not be TCNJ students, you can include here because we can't search for them in the system. You can also include any staff who respond to the incident. So that could include the professional staff on duty, campus police officers, or any other staff who might be present. Here's where you'll put your incident narrative. So in your report writing module, you reviewed what goes into an incident narrative. So we won't talk too much about that here, but it should always include complete sentences and be as objective as possible. You want to make sure to include as much detail as you can. There is no limit here. Just a tip, I do recommend typing out the narrative, in a Word document ahead of time. Sometimes the system times out, as you're typing it, and you don't want to lose all that work before you have a chance to save it. So just make sure that you're typing it somewhere where you can quickly add it back in case your document locks you out. For student organizations, again, if you become aware that any organization or athletic team was somehow involved in the incident, you should check the appropriate box. So for example, if a resident comes back from a party and is very sick and they share with you that they were at a party for a specific organization, you can check that here. For attaching documents, generally you will not be taking pictures while documenting an incident unless there is specific damage, vandalism, or bias messages that we may need to see after the fact. It's a good idea to consult with professional staff about whether or not you should be taking pictures. You should never be taking pictures of students during incidents without talking to professional staff about that. Staff often become aware of issues or concerns through GroupMe or other messaging apps, so it can be helpful to have screenshots of those messages in that case. Again, it's always a good idea to consult with pro staff or your supervisor about whether or not you want to include those. But you can add them here. You can title it, choose a file, and you can add a description if you want to. And you can add more than one. For pro staff notification, here's where you'll check off if you called any professional staff or consulted with them during the incident or immediately following it. So if you call the pro staff on duty and it's Alex, you can check his name here. For pro staff responded, you want to check for anybody who responds to the scene. So if you call Alex and he decides that he needs to come over and assist, you will check that box. For police agency response, if any campus police officers report to the scene, you'll want to check off who was present. You can always ask the campus police officers for their badge numbers, generally as the incident is wrapping up. If you forget to ask for their badge numbers, you can always call over to campus police dispatch and ask who responded. They'll be able to give you those numbers. If you call TCNJ EMS or if campus police dispatches them, you'll want to note that, yes or no. And again, you'll want to note their badge numbers. So you can ask them when they are on scene or contact campus police dispatch if you forget to do so or if people have to leave before you have a chance. For transport to the hospital, check yes if you know for sure that they were transported to the hospital. There might be some cases where pro staff come and they tell you that you can leave, and so you may not know at that point. You still are going to have to put in your incident report, so if you're not sure, you can check no. Pro staff can always change this later. CSSRS evaluations are not something that our student staff do, so your answer should always be no. Professional staff will check yes if they administer it. And finally, for this description for notification letters, this is something you can completely disregard. This is only for professional staff use, so you should never be putting anything in this box. After you are all done with your incident report, you'll want to hit submit, and then your residence director, the associate directors, the director, and the Office of Student Conduct will immediately receive a notification of their report.